They looked like the perfect couple, Mark and Lisa, newlyweds with a bright future ahead. But behind closed doors, secrets were waiting to explode. Lisa had always trusted Mark, but something felt off. Late night phone calls, hushed conversations, and a closeness with his best friend, Ryan, that seemed deeper than friendship. One evening, Lisa came home earlier than expected, and what she found shattered everything. Mark wasn't just hiding something, he was hiding who he really was. Confronted with the truth, Lisa made a decision that would change their lives forever. But Mark, he had other plans. Was it fear, shame, desperation? No one knows exactly what pushed him over the edge. But in a moment of darkness, their love story turned into a nightmare. And when the truth finally came out, it left everyone asking, how far would someone go to protect a secret? Stay tuned to find out. Lisa stood frozen, her heart pounding. She had seen enough to know there was no misunderstanding. Mark and Ryan weren't just friends. The way they looked at each other, the way they touched, it was all so clear now. But why had Mark married her if he was in love with someone else? The betrayal cut deep, but she wasn't just hurt. She was furious. When Mark finally noticed her standing there, his face drained of color. Ryan backed away, avoiding her eyes, but Mark? He stepped toward her, his voice shaking as he tried to explain. Lisa didn't want excuses. She wanted the truth. And more than anything, she wanted out. I want a divorce, she said firmly, her voice unwavering. Mark flinched like she had struck him. Lisa thought she saw something flicker in his eyes, fear, maybe. But she had no idea just how much he was willing to risk to keep his secret buried. Mark's hands trembled as he reached for Lisa, but she stepped back. The air between them felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. "Lisa, please," he started, his voice barely above a whisper. But she had already made up her mind. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a lie, one that had trapped her in a marriage built on deception. Ryan avoided looking at either of them, guilt written all over his face. He muttered something about leaving, but Mark grabbed his arm. "Don't," he said, his voice firm, almost desperate. Lisa watched the exchange, something clicking into place. This wasn't just about love. Mark was afraid. Of what? She wasn't sure yet, but she could feel it. That night, Lisa packed a bag. Mark didn't try to stop her, but the look in his eyes as she walked away sent a chill down her spine. She thought leaving would be the end of it. She had no idea. It was only the beginning. Lisa barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed the moment she walked in on Mark and Ryan. The lies, the betrayal, the fear in Mark's eyes. It all felt like a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. But one thing was clear, she couldn't stay silent. The next morning, she made an appointment with a lawyer. If Mark wanted to live a lie, that was his choice, but she refused to be part of it any longer. Meanwhile, Mark was unraveling. Ryan tried to reassure him, telling him they'd figure things out, but Mark wasn't listening. He couldn't. Lisa knowing the truth wasn't just a personal disaster, it was a threat. His career, his reputation, his entire life could crumble if she spoke out. And the way she looked at him before she left. Like she had already made her decision. That evening, Lisa's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. A shaky voice whispered, "You need to be careful." The line went dead. A chill ran through her. Something told her this wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. This was something far more dangerous. Lisa stared at her phone, her pulse racing. The voice had been unfamiliar, but the warning felt personal. She tried calling the number back. Nothing. Just a dead line. Who was trying to warn her? And more importantly, from what? She paced the room, thinking. Mark had always been careful, always in control. But last night, she saw something different. Desperation. Fear. She had assumed it was because his secret was out. But what if there was more? What if Mark wasn't just afraid of losing his marriage, but of something bigger? Determined to get answers, she decided to confront Ryan. If anyone knew the full story, it was him. She found his address online and drove across town, her hands gripping the wheel. But when she arrived, the front door was slightly open. The lights were on, but the house was eerily silent. A bad feeling settled in her stomach. She stepped inside cautiously. "Ryan," she called. No answer. Then she saw it, a shattered glass on the floor, a chair tipped over. And on the table, her name scribbled on a piece of paper. Something was very, very wrong. Lisa's breath caught in her throat as she stepped further into the house. Every instinct told her to turn back, but she couldn't. Something had happened to Ryan, something connected to Mark, to the secret, to the warning she had received. She picked up the note with her name on it, her fingers shaking. But before she could read it, a creak sounded behind her. She spun around, and there was Mark. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were dark, calculating. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. Lisa clenched the note in her hand. "Where's Ryan?" Mark hesitated. That was all the confirmation she needed. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You don't understand, Lisa. I never meant for things to go this far." Her heart pounded. "Then tell me the truth." Mark sighed, his mask slipping. Ryan wanted to leave, to start over somewhere else. He was afraid of what would happen if everything came out. Lisa's stomach twisted. "And you?" Mark looked at her, something unreadable flickering across his face. "I did what I had to do." Before she could process his words, sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Lisa exhaled sharply. Someone had called the police. Mark's shoulders sagged, his fight draining. "It wasn't supposed to end like this," he murmured. As officers stormed in, Lisa finally looked down at the note in her hand. It was smudged, hurriedly written, but the message was clear. Asterisk, Liza, it was never just about us. He's not afraid of the truth. He's afraid of who else knows. Asterisk. And just like that, Lisa realized this wasn't over. As the police led Mark away, Lisa stood frozen, Ryan's note still clutched in her hand. She had thought the biggest betrayal was Mark's secret, but now she understood. It had never just been about him. There were deeper lies, ones that stretched beyond their marriage. Ryan had been scared, not just for himself, but for Lisa too. Whatever Mark had been caught up in, it wasn't over yet. But standing there, watching the man she once loved being taken away, she realized something. She was free. Free from the lies, the deception, the fear. In the days that followed, more truths came to light. Mark had been protecting more than just his secret relationship. There were people involved who didn't want the truth exposed. But Lisa refused to live in fear. She had survived, and now she was ready to move forward. Because sometimes the truth isn't just painful, it's powerful.